Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of On Cinema. My name is Tim Heidecker. I'm your host. It's a podcast where we talk about movies and different new movies, old movies. Hopefully, we'll get to the point soon where we're seeing movies before you see them. Then we could do little previews, and that would be awesome. But anyways, I got a different special show today. I've got with me my often on the show guest, Gregg Turkington.
Hey guys, glad to be here and to talk about cinema with everyone and fill you in on all the details about movies that you might have missed.
And I've also would like to welcome our special guest via computer is Jordan Hoffman. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. I'm a long-time listener, and I got to say the audio fidelity of the
let me just give you a little explanation of who you are. Jordan is a film writer. He used to write for UGO.com and is a freelance writer who works for writes for MTV, About.com, IFC/Film. Screen Crush, Badass Digest, and I'm sure many more. Thanks for coming on the show, Jordan.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you both through cyberspace.
Cool. So the movie we're talking about today is 300.
Yeah, this is a great movie. I love this movie, and of course, if you've seen Lord of the Rings or that type of movie, this would fit in very, very well into that category. So I just loved it. It was a classic.
You really think so? You really think it's of a piece with Lord of the Rings? I mean, I find them to be polar opposites in a sort of a philosophical point of view, wouldn't you say?
Well, I mean, they're both great. They're both fantasies, and they don't take place, in Hollywood or in New York City. So with these sorts of characters, I mean, you can't go wrong, and it's just a great movie. And Frank Miller is the director and did a great job, and this was a big hit. And
actually, Frank Miller was the writer of the graphic novel upon which it was based. It was actually Zack Snyder who was the director.
All right. Well,
okay. Well, so Jordan, tell me a little bit about this movie. I mean, I'm not super familiar with it. I remember seeing it. Can you tell me a little bit about
first of all, it's based on an actual historical event, the Battle of Thermopylae in ancient Greece, the quote 300 Spartans that held off the Persians at the Hot Gates, and it's done in a very stylized manner. And I think a lot of critics don't give it its due because it was it was released in 2007 when the political culture was really very, very testy about anything to do with East versus West. And, it's about the Greeks, symbolizing Western culture, fighting off the invasion of the East, the Persians, one could argue as a stand-in for Islamic culture, and it seemed in bad taste at the time. But that's all to the side of the fact that it's a really engaging, fun action film that is completely over the top, highly stylized, and was quite revolutionary in its use of green screen and hyper stylized violence.
Yeah, I mean, that could be true. I think it's a popcorn movie, and it became a classic when it came out.
Well, 100% a popcorn film, but I think it actually works, not to mix my Greco metaphors, but a little bit of a Trojan horse in that it sort of brought in some higher political themes, subversive themes, that maybe 15, 14-year-old boys weren't expecting to see.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I didn't know anything about that. I mean, like I said, I'd seen it once on, I think, Stars.
Well, I've seen it 3 times, so... I mean, some of what you're saying is right, but a lot of it's just not. I mean, it's not that type of a thing. This is a fun movie.
Well, it is
it's
true.
Fun.
It is true.
I mean, kids would like it. Adults like it. Everyone likes it. It's just a lot of fun.
Well, no, feminists don't like it, and those who are very, hypersensitive to sort of bombastic, neo-fascist imagery don't like it. But I think they're the ones who are being.
They don't go to movies.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just.
Those people don't go to movies.
Let me jump in because I want to talk about the lead star of this movie, Gerard Butler. Was this Jordan? Was this sort of his first big action movie, or the big movie that broke him out, or?
Certainly the first thing that gave him any real attention. I mean,
I'd heard of him before. He's done a lot of a lot of great movies over the years. He's was in Tomorrow Never Dies, James Bond. I'm a big Bond guy, so I knew him from that.
This was the one, though, that made him a leading man, and it's not that he does a great role. He's a sort of a cipher for, alpha male. The Spartan culture is not exactly warm and fuzzy. Mm-hmm. There's a sequence of him, just murdering the injured, but he's, takes his shirt off and he's got tremendous muscles. I don't know if you guys...
Right, he's like a sex symbol as well.
Yeah, and he was born in November of 1969, so he's getting up there in years, but give him a shot. He's a great actor and it's a great film. I would rent this. Netflix.
It also was one of the first films anybody saw Michael Fassbender in, who now is a tremendous star. You're familiar with his work, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Did you see Shame, the film that was very, very popular at festivals and with the critics last year?
I have it on my list. Definitely not something I've seen yet. Is that something you'd recommend?
How many videotapes do you own?
Do I? I actually don't.
Okay.
Well, no. I used to have some videotapes.
So you're not really committed to building a library and having films for reference, because that's how you build up expertise.
Right. That's not important. The important thing is that this guy knows a lot about this movie, and he knows obviously a lot about movies in general. For example, you write for StarTrek.com, correct, Jordan?
Yeah, that's actually accurate. I write a weekly column for StarTrek.com.
But that's not an authorized site. That's just a fan thing. Anyone can. I mean, that's like
it's
that's like saying you write for
StarTrek.com.
Wikipedia or something.
No, it's StarTrek.com. That's official. That's an official
somebody
Star Trek website.
There's poachers. There's people who make a living getting websites. There's guys that go on and
Well, can you settle a bet for us then? Because we had this discussion about several months ago about Star Trek II.
Yes.
And Gregg insisted that it was, and I've pretty much confirmed it through our audience, but I'm convinced that the plot of Star Trek II was about the Wrath of Khan. It was called the Wrath of Khan, and Gregg seems to think that it was about them going back to San Francisco, which is actually the plot of 4. Can you just clear the record?
You're right, Tim. Number 2 was about Khan, and number 4 was when they go back to San Francisco in the 1980s. They go through time.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree. The second,
well,
it depends on how you number it. I mean, look what they did with the Star Wars movies. If you are an expert in that, you see that they took the first one and now that's the 4th one. So, I mean, anything's possible, I guess.
Actually, if you go way back, it was always episode 4, not originally.
Are we talking about Star Trek here?
No, this would be Star Wars.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't write for StarWars.com, but I swing both ways in that regard.
Can you tell me anything about the new Star Trek movie that's coming up?
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's not going to have Leonard Nimoy.
I'm actually asking Jordan here, who writes for StarTrek.com. Go ahead, Jordan.
The script is very much under wraps. There have been a lot of rumors, so I actually don't
so
right
you don't
now
know anything about it.
Yeah, well, actually, that's actually a little accurate. I don't know too much about the plot itself, other than it's the continuing adventures. There were some rumors
of course. I mean, it's not. Of course, it's the continuing adventures. That's what they all are. That's why we love the series, and that's why it's a successful series. That's right. That's right. But as far as like who the villain is, whether it's Klingons, whether it's Khan in a new form, whether it's Ricardo Montalban died about 3 years ago.
Yeah, no, he did die, but so did the guy who played the original Scotty, and they've got a new one, and the original Bones and whatnot. In fact, none of the original cast is in the new Star Trek films, with the exception of Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, which is why fans don't care for these movies, and I give them a chance.
It actually did. It did pretty well. It not only did it do well with new fans, but it managed to appeal to a great number of the original fans. It was a nice handing of the baton. I mean, there were some ruffled feathers in the community, but by and large, people seem to enjoy it.
All right. Well, those are obviously 300 is very different from Star Trek, but I was glad to be able to talk to you about that here. Once again, thanks, Jordan, for coming on the show. Jordan Hoffman, you can find his work at StarTrek.com. MTV
until they shut it down because it's not an authorized site.
About.com, IFC, /film, Screen Crush,
It's
and
a
also
lot of
Greg,
places. It's a lot of places.
and also
So thank
Greg
you.
Turkington here. Greg, do you have any websites you want to plug or?
Well, I'm working on my first book right now. I'm not messing around with websites because that's, anyone can do that. And taking, 30 years of film expertise and putting it in a book that hopefully will be able to give all the details about when it's published on this podcast, on our podcast. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And stick around next week. We'll be back with more
let me do
on
the ending
cinema.
Here. Let me do the ending. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And again, thanks to Jordan Hoffman for calling in. Thanks to my laptop for letting us do this with the whole iChat and everything is really awesome. I recommend using it if you're doing a podcast and want to talk to somebody that's not in your vicinity. One other quick question. How can people get a hold of 300?
Netflix.com, which is a very popular site. And if you're not on it, it's very easy to sign up for, and it's so much easier than having to go to your local store and get movies. You just watch them come in the mail. I also recommend checking thrift stores for old videotapes. People like Jordan are getting rid of their videotapes, and you can find some great titles that way.
Netflix is good, and there are some ways you could stream it, through the various of the major platforms for streaming if you want to watch it on your mobile device, your iPad, or right through your TV if you have that technology.
All right. That is 300 and some of the Star Trek movies we also hit on. And actually, we actually kind of talked about Star Wars too, which is cool. All right. Thanks very much, everybody, and see you next week.